Hi, Konda Dove. Hello. Hi, Anna. Hi, Navajish. Hi, Yaha. Hello. All right, awesome. Let's get started. Hi, Leila. I'm grateful for how you share knowledge with us. Oh, thank you. It's my pleasure. I'm live from a phone. Yes, I am live from a phone. So this week I want to talk about how we find our stories because a lot of times I think, on Sunday I talked about how we have stories like all throughout our lives. Things happen to you. Hi, Sue. Good afternoon. We talk about how throughout our whole lives we have these memories, we have these moments in our life, we have these stories that happens to us, and we end up doing is we just ignore it. We don't really think about it. We don't understand the meaning behind it. But these stories are what makes you you. Like, for example, if I came to you right now and said, let's pick a movie character, right? Like Iron Man or something like that. And I said, hey, try to sell Iron Man, right? Try to sell Iron Man to this person or something like that. Then what you would do is, oh, hey, Denora, like then what you would do is you were like, oh, this is Iron Man, like you would talk about all the strengths, like, oh, he can do this, he's very smart, blah blah blah, but like these are his weaknesses, and like you would tell, and you would actually, there are stories you can tell, like for example, this one time he saved the world, like doing this, blah blah blah, blah, right? So when we watch a movie and we see a character, we kind of understand. Oh, Layla, you can't hear me. Can everyone else hear me? Okay, or is it just, or or is it my mic? Let me know. Hey, Sasha. Hey, Tim. I'll just say hi to everyone. Okay. So where was I? Yeah. So basically, what's gonna happen is for movie characters and things like that, we know what it is, but for ourselves, it's kind of hard to tell the stories of our own lives. Like, oh, why did I do that? And that's the thing. Like, if I want to sell myself, if I want to sell, like, if I want to sell somebody, a person, and what I need to do is I need to know a lot about that person, and I need to be able to be like, oh, this person is great because, because of this, this quality. And I think, when like because this person lost their parent when they were young, or because this is what happened to them, this is what happened in their life, this is the reason what makes this person who they are, right? So you can't really sell yourself unless you understand your own story, and that's kind of what I'm talking about. Like, there's a difference between storytelling and story finding. And what you need to do is, in life, you need to be doing both. You need to be finding your stories, right? Through reflection, through journaling, through diaries, through therapy, through whatever it is, you have to find your story. And then you can tell your story. What I see a lot of people do is all they're doing is like, oh, how do I tell stories? How do I tell stories? How do I tell stories? Like, they keep talking about storytelling as if storytelling is a skill, like design or like fashion, like as if it was a skill. No, you can't tell stories unless you have stories. So first you have to find stories. What are the stories in my life that are significant, that made me the person who I am? Once you know the stories, then you can tell it. But everyone try to skip this part and goes directly to here. That's the problem. Okay, let's answer some questions. If you guys have any questions for me, if you're just joining in, hello everyone. If you have any questions, just go ahead and put it in the sticker tab, and then I'll answer. I'll go through and answer them. And you can just vote up the questions that you like. Hey, it's next level. Yeah, it's like an arsenal of stories. You want to have an arsenal of stories. What you want to do is you want to keep finding, keep reflecting. Why did that happen to me? Why did I say that? Why did that person do that to me? Like, keep reflecting, right? And every time reflect, you're increasing stories, right? And then we can take that and we can polish it and tell a story about it. But this, you cannot do this part without this part, is what I'm saying. Okay. It's Huzaifa design. How to make decisions between two relationships if you want to choose one. How to make decision between two relationships if you want to choose one. I guess, like, what do you mean? Like, why do you have to choose one? I guess if it's like a personal relationship or like a love relationship or something like that, then I guess I don't know. That is a good question. Like, here's the thing. Here's the thing about what I do. Okay, here's what I'm gonna do. Okay. Because this is what I think the real question is. Like, so how do you make good decisions, right? How do you make good decisions? How do you pick between two jobs? How do you pick between two clients? Or how do you pick between two directions? How do you pick between two niche, right? Or like, how do you make how do I make decisions? Let's go with that. Why don't we do that? Okay, so I'm an overthinker. So what I tend to do is I tend to overanalyze every decision, right? Like, make the pros and cons list. They say that, right? Oh, make the pros and cons list, blah, 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 all of that. And from my experience, I actually found that the best decisions that I've ever made in my life, like the key decisions that helped me in my life, are all decisions that I didn't think about. Like, all those decisions all came from my gut. And like, I talked about this with like some of my clients, because I have a lot of clients who are like intuitive coach. They're like mediums, psychics, they're like intuitives, and they read people's minds and shit, or they read people, like those like tarot card like readers and things like that, right? So I have a lot of clients like in that space, and a lot of them talk about this, right? The intuition, like your gut. And your gut is like your second brain. Your gut knows. This is what I think. I mean, I'm not, don't quote me on this because I'm not a scientist, but this is what I think. Sometimes you see a product and logically everything makes sense. This is like perfect, like the sales page, everything, that all the sales message makes perfect sense. But something in your gut tells you, it's like, I don't know, something is off here, right? And the same thing happens in relationship. Like, on paper, everything looks perfect with this person, but something inside you're like, or it could be the opposite, right? But what I found is this. Usually your gut, your intuition, are making decisions that are even smarter than your brain. Like, your gut is taking account things that are in your brain, that things that happen in your life that your brain doesn't even remember. And I think this is what's happening. Like, when I say find your story, what I mean is, when you find your story, what ends up happening is you have like millions of stories in your life. The time that this person stole your pen, the time that, when you did this, when you gave this, like, you have millions of stories in your life, and all of those tiny little experiences that happen in your life, all imprinted something in you. Okay. That's why maybe like when you had a childhood trauma where you were about to drown or something like that, then you're going to be afraid of water, right? Because that imprinted that inside you. And even if you don't process it, even if you don't logically, you don't know what that was, your body has learned it. Okay? So here, I guess here's what I'll say. By the way, everything I say, like I always say, I'm not a fucking scientist or doctor, but this is all from my experience. Okay? This is what's happening. All throughout your life, you have millions of stories that happened to you, or that something that happened to you. And every one of those stories, your body learned a lesson. Okay, your gut learned the lesson every time, and your gut remembers all those stories, every little thing, tiny little moments, those all those little tragedies that happened to you. Your body remembers all of it. Okay, the only thing is your body doesn't know, your mind doesn't know. So, for example, my whole life, every time I go shopping, let's say I go shopping and I have to pick between this and this, I always pick the cheapest one. Like I go eat something as like, oh, here's the generic cheap version, here's versus here's the expensive version. Which one? I always pick the cheap version. And Jesus like, son, like why don't you just buy the, why don't you just buy the good one, the expensive one, the nice one, so you can just keep it. Like, no, but I don't. I always pick the cheap one. And I have to like constantly get myself not to do that, right? And that the reason why I do that is because when I was young, when I was like 10 years old, I went to the store and my mom told me to pick like, okay, here's a shirt and here's another shirt, pick one. And I happened to pick the more expensive one and I got beat that night. For and I like in my mind I equated that, oh, if I pick the more expensive one, I'm gonna get punished, right? Like, and my body learned that lesson. Even though I don't know logically why every time I go to the store, why do I always pick the cheapest one? Why am I always like fearful of picking the expensive one? Why? My body knows. My mind doesn't know, but my body knows, right? And that's actually the kind of the reason why I keep saying you need to find your story, find your story, find your story. Because your body has already learned all of these lessons from these stories. Your body's learned your lessons, and the way you run your business, the way you work, the way you are in your relationships, the way you are with your friends, like the person, like who you are is the manifestation of all the years in your life, all these lessons that your body learned, and you're just living your life. You're every day, you're not making decisions. Most of the time, your brain is not making decisions. Most of the time, your body is making decisions. Your body is going like, oh, I want this. Oh, I want to drink this. Like your body's making a lot of those decisions. Okay. So coming back, that's the reason why your gut is actually a lot more smarter than your brain. Do you understand what I mean? So when I make decisions, I oftentimes listen to my gut because like almost 100% of the time, when I didn't listen to my gut and I listened to my brain, like in the future, like months later or years later, I always look back and I say to myself, oh, I should have listened to my gut. How many times we say that shit in our life? Oh, fuck, I should have listened to my gut. Oh, shit, I knew it. Oh, fuck. I knew I shouldn't hire that guy. Oh, I knew I shouldn't have gone into business with that guy. Ah, shit. I knew I should have fucking broke up with him. Like, how many times do we do that in our life? How many times do we say, "Oh, I knew it. Something was off. Something in my gut was telling me something was off." Right? My intuition was telling me. And how many times do we like that? That's what I mean. That's how smart your gut is. So I know this is not your question, but that's how I try to make decisions on everything. Actually, I just try to make all the big decisions in my life. I try to use my gut because I found that like my gut always outsmarts my brain, and here's another thing. Every time I give you guys like these advice, I want you to remember this. There's no such thing as blanket advice, right? Everything is in context, right? In this context, do this. In this context, do this, right? It's not like always hustle, 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 hustle. If you're fucking hustling and working 18 hours a day, what I might tell you is like take a break, relax a little bit, right? Like just be more present, right? But if you're like fucking working, 5 hours a day and like saying that I'm working hard, I'm hustling, then I'm gonna be like, no, you're not hustling. Stop being fucking lazy and go hustle, right? Like it really depends on the situation and the context. Everything is different. But yeah, I guess I just want to say that. Yeah. Okay, let's move on. I think you left a comment here. Okay, good answer, but I'm struggling to choose between two girls. I love both of them. Well, you know what? Like we live in a modern society now, so maybe you can have two girlfriends. You can have an open relationship. Many times our intuition tells us to, but we don't listen to it. Yes. Yeah, a lot of times we don't want to. Most of the times when we don't listen to our gut, this is what I think most people do, right? Most people fucking they they see what they want to see, right? Most people see what they want to see. So, for example, when I tell a client, right, oh, your project is going to be somewhere between $10,000 to $50,000, right? Like all they heard was 10,000. So when I come back and say, okay, it's going to be $30,000, then they're like, oh, I thought it was going to be 10,000. I'm like, no, I said it's between 10,000 to 50,000, right? So that's what I mean. Like most people hear what they want to hear, and that's the problem. So this is what most people do when they listen. So, for example, let's say their gut tells you something that they want, something that they desire. Then they're going to be like, oh, yeah, no, I just listened to my gut. Yeah. They're like, all the logic said no, but I just listened to my gut. Well, you didn't really listen to your gut because you just completely ignore your logic, right? Because that means there's something there. You just ignored it, right? On the other hand, there are people who also are like, you should listen to your gut, but what you want to do is this, right? So you pick this way, so you go with this way, and then you blame that, oh no, like that's wrong because of whatever excuse and whatever reason you want to come up with. So yeah, okay. Conda do. Yeah, I'm not gonna even bother. Okay. Asked, how do you store the stories you remember? Use app? No. No. Guys. Okay, I mean you can write it down. You can put in your notes app or something like that. Like what I do is whenever I remember something, I just write down a little sentence on my Notion. But here's the thing, like don't think of this as like homework that I need to like have this library of stories and things like that. What I want you to do, maybe try this, guys. I learned this. I recently learned this from this interview with Louis C.K. where he was talking about how he comes up with jokes, right? And Joe Rogan was asking him, do you write down all your jokes, and do you practice it? Do you like sit down and write and all of that thing? And what he said, oh, Layla, can you put your question in the sticker and then I'll answer it. So what's happening is, he says that no. So some comedians do that. Some comedians will write down their jokes and then they'll try on stage. But this is how Louis C.K. does it, and I really resonated with it because that's how I do it, right? So when I think of an idea or when I hear something or when something happens to me or when I watch something and I want to remember, okay, this is a story, okay? What I do is, for example, like the other day I was watching. Okay, I said this before, but the other day I was watching that movie Joy, with and the Dalai Lama. There was like, I noticed that in that scene, like Dalai Lama was very touchy feely, right? And he like rubs his head and things like that. And I was thinking about how that's so close to how like animals behave, right? Like animals, when you see two chimps or two dogs that are like kind of like rubbing against each other like that, they're very present. Like it's almost like by being present and not overthinking, we're bringing ourselves to that moment, right? And all of that. So I have this, and there's actually more to that story because they actually measure their brain waves and all of that. But I remember this story, okay? And I know that there's in this story, there are certain things in there that I found fascinating. Like, oh wow, the how when you measure the brain, how present they are, and how if we are really present, we actually go down to our animal instincts, our natural instinct, and we're able to connect on a very natural animal level and things like that, right? So when I saw that documentary, saw that movie, like I remember all of these thoughts came to my mind, okay? But what I ended up doing is I don't actually write it all down because I know the significance of that story. I know that moment. I remember it. I know, but here's the thing: a lot of times with these stories, I don't know exactly what the story is, and that's kind of what we're practicing right now, right? I don't know the exact story, meaning, okay, this happened and this happened. This happened, and then this person did this, and then. Here's the ending. Here's the surprise ending, and here's like, the lesson is blah, right? Like it's not polished yet. It's not like a polished, perfect story that I can tell yet, right? It's just like a little seed of an idea there. Oh shit, that's interesting. And I remember that moment. I remember that moment vividly. What happened, what I saw, and or like that. I went to the store the other day, and this person asked me this interaction I had. Like I remember the moment. I remember the significance of that moment, but there's no story yet. Meaning, there's no beginning, middle, end. There's no climax. There's no ending. There's no lesson. There's no point of the story. There's none of that yet. So what ends up happening is, I'll just remember that as the Dalai Lama story. Okay, so maybe I'll go on my Notion and write down the Dalai Lama story or something like that, right? So I know that that's there, right? And next time I'm with a friend, I'm on Sunday service, or I'm on Instagram Live, or I'm talking to a client, I'm gonna bring up that story live. I'm just gonna narrate that story live. I haven't wrote it out. I haven't worked through it in my head. I don't know where it's gonna go, but I just bringing it up, and I just see live where it goes, right? And a lot of times when I bring it up, it's like when somebody says, like, let's say I'm talking with clients or I'm coaching somebody, and they're like so worried about the future or something like that, and I'm trying to get them to be present. And I'm trying to talk about the importance of being present, right? Then all of a sudden I'll remember that Dalai Lama story, and I'll start telling the Dalai Lama story. But what ends up happening is while I'm telling the Dalai Lama story, something connects inside of me and be like, oh, so that's the lesson of the story. That's one lesson of the story. Or they'll add something and be like, oh, maybe that's why this happens, blah, blah, blah. And through this conversation, so next time you tell that story once in front of your clients, the story is kind of messy. I don't know what it is, but it becomes a little bit more polished. Okay? And then you tell it again, and then it becomes a little bit more polished. And you tell it again. You tell it to your friends. You tell it to your boss. You tell it to your clients. You tell it on Instagram stories. You keep telling it. Every time you go on a podcast, you tell it. Keep telling that story, and every time you tell that story, the story gets more polished, until you told it 20 times. It's become this like beautifully polished marble of a story that's like perfect. Do you know what I mean? So that, I would say, that's kind of where you want to go to. Does that answer your question? That's how I store and remember my stories. It's less about story, and it's about keep telling. You got to keep retelling your story. A lot of people like just have stories in their head, and they don't want to tell it. They don't want to tell their story because they think it's not polished yet. It's not the story's not ready yet. Oh, what the fuck? Let me see if this is better. Okay, is that better? Can you guys hear me now? Hello? Can you guys hear me? Hello? Testing. 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Sound is out. Is this still out? Oh, let me try something here. Can you guys hear me now? Hello? Can you guys hear me? Can you hear me? Testing. All right, let me just unplug this freaking mic. Okay, can you hear me now? People on YouTube are going like, yeah, I can hear you. Thanks, guys. Okay. Yeah, I'm gonna end this live session on Instagram, and I'm gonna restart it. Okay, sorry guys. I'll be right back on Instagram if you're joining from Instagram. I'm still on YouTube, so if you guys are on YouTube, just stay. You can stay. Okay, let me try this again. I'm going live again on Instagram. Sorry about that, guys. Having a little bit of technical. So yeah, just to kind of recap what I just talked about. Basically, how I find and how I remember and how I store stories is every time something interesting happens, I'll just remember that like Dalai Lama story or something, just like something quick, and I'll just make a note of it. And then I'll eventually come back and I'll try to retell that story over and over and over in front of a live audience. And when I try to retell that story, usually what ends up happening is it becomes more clear. The story becomes more and more and more clear. And you'd be surprised actually through the practice of storytelling, you're gonna be able to Ricardo, Instagram is back, so through the act of storytelling, you're gonna be able to get more clear answers. You're gonna be able to find out more. Turn on airplane mode. Yeah, blah, blah, blah. Yeah, that's a good idea, Tabitha. Hi, Ro. Hey, Sue. Hey, Phyllis. Hi, Cradle Handmade. Okay. Sorry, I lost all the questions, guys. All the questions that you guys submitted. Can you resubmit them? Because I lost them. Conversation with Braun. Hello. Gabriel Van Cassia. Mankina Hero. Hi, everyone. Yeah, so if you guys have any questions for me about, I guess, storytelling or just anything in general, just go ahead and put it in the chat and I'll answer them. If you're on YouTube, just go ahead and put your question in the chat. If you're on Instagram, put your question in the sticker because I lost all the questions when I got Thank you. Thank you, Agent B. Hey, Azuka. What's CPA marketing? I don't know what CPA marketing is. Hi, Emil. Hey, Wolf. Hey, Lily. Hey, Tabitha. Been teaching storytelling to my teens. That's awesome. Yeah, you should. I just feel like storytelling and just like the act of self-reflection and just writing it, that kind of act of almost like journaling, right, is such an important practice to have in life. Okay. The drawing bar, is it possible to tell a story in just one image or drawing? Yeah, I mean, I guess that's what photography is, right? Because when you like, I think that's what photography is. When I see a really, like, for example, you know that video clip. I mean, it could be a photo, but you know that video clip like back in the 90s or 80s or whatever in Tiananmen Square, like that one guy with the student with his bag or whatever, like standing in front of the tank, and like that one picture says so much, right? So yeah, of course, like you could, but I think visuals, like what I'm teaching, is not the same thing. Like, here's what I think. Storytelling, I feel like, is it's one of those fucking, when something becomes so commercialized, and storytelling is one of those things. Like people say storytelling, like they use this word very broadly. Oh, it's like, oh, they see one of my carousels, like, oh, great storytelling. Or like they'll see an image, it's like, oh, great storytelling. Oh, great. Oh, this has great storytelling. Great storytelling. Great. Somebody gives a speech. Oh, great storytelling. Storytelling. Like not even knowing what the fuck that means. Like, do you even know what the fuck storytelling means? Like, when you know what I mean? Like that. That's what's happening, and it's kind of like when people use the word. Like, I really, really, really hate it in like YouTube or discussions when people use the word energy so broadly. Like when people use the energy like, oh, it's because of the energy and the energy of it's because of the energy that you're putting off, and it's because of the energy and this energy and this energy from this star from the and when, like a lot of astrologers also do this, right? Oh, this, this energy from the whatever sun rising, Mercury rising, whatever that is, right? Like those kind of like vague, meaningless language drives me fucking crazy because I don't really know what you're trying to say. Do you know what I mean? Like, here's the thing, like, because when you say energy, like in my mind, I go to energy, like fucking calories or kilowatts, like that's the energy that my mind goes to. So I don't, you know what I mean? So that's the thing. Like I feel like storytelling has become another word like that, energy, where people just use it so fucking broadly, where like everything is storytelling, like everything is energy, right? And yeah, that's kind of what's happening. So yeah, that's just not the kind of storytelling that I'm teaching. I'm teaching a very, 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 very specific type of storytelling, which is very, very practical. Do you know what I mean? It's not like, it's not, yeah. It's actually, that's one of the first things I do when I go into a sales meeting, kickoff meeting, or something like that. One of the first things I do is I try to define words. So when somebody says, and if somebody starts using the word energy, or somebody starts using the word storytelling, like the first thing I'm gonna do is like, okay, what does that mean to you? Like, what does the word storytelling mean to you? What does the word energy, like, I need to get the clear definition of that word for that person first before I can have a conversation. Because they're gonna just keep going back to that word every time they don't know what to say. Every time they don't have a thought, they're just gonna be like, "Oh, it's just the energy. It's just storytelling." Like, what? What the fuck does that mean? Like, okay. Here's a question from YouTube that I'll answer real quick. Simona, hi. There would lodge to know. I think you mean you would like to know your opinion on how to overcome the struggle of always having to find stories when working on photo projects. I don't know why it would be specific to photo projects, but this is how I do it. You know the like a lot of times in creative companies, like marketing companies, agencies, and things like that, they'll put all the creatives in a fucking room and be like, okay guys, this is what we need to do, and this is our project, and we need to tell a story. Okay, ideas, come on guys, ideas, come on, ideas, right? And everybody in the room is going like, like, you want me to just fucking come up with an idea right now here, right? And then they force themselves, oh, brainstorm session, guys. Okay, ideas, and everybody starts putting out their fucking bullshit ideas because they're not actually trying to put out ideas, right? They're just trying to fucking, like get credit and just fucking participate because their boss is telling you. And this is how most fucking creative spaces work. They think that like you come up with the idea when the project happens. No, that's not how it fucking works. You need idea all the fucking time. You need stories all the time. Don't wait till you have a fucking project to come up with your stories. Don't wait till you need to do a TED Talk to come up with stories. You're not going to be able to. You need to be telling stories all the fucking time. The stories that I'm telling at TED, the stories that I'm telling on social media, the stories that I'm telling on public and podcasts and things like that, those stories, I fucking told those stories 20 times in my life. I came up with that story 10 years ago. I fucking told it like 20 times to 20 different people. And over those time, it's become polished and polished. And after 20 years, it's become like, okay, here's this story that teaches this lesson. Boom. Now it's in my arsenal. And now when I do a TED Talk, when I want to make a content, when I want to do teach Sunday service, when I want to do that, I have 1,000 stories like that already that I've already told over the last 20 years that I can just pull out and be like, okay, today I'm going to use, this is the story I'm going to use today. That's what you do. So don't try to come up with content don't try to make up the story last minute. That's not going to happen. The only way you can come to a story is by retelling it over and over and over. And it has to get polished. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's what I'll say. Like, don't wait till last minute. How do you find content for reels, posts? I mean, how do I find content, or how should you find content, right? By the way, I'll make it. I'll see it like this. It's kind of. I'll use a perfect analogy. Do you guys know a chef? Is anybody here a chef? Or you know a chef? Or you know somebody who loves to cook or who's really good in cooking? Okay? So that's like going to that's going to like a really good chef or somebody who's a chef, one of your friends, and asking them, how do I come up with recipes? That's basically it. Like, oh, how do I find content for reels? Oh, how do I do this? Oh, how do you write down your stories? How do you remember your stories? How do you come up with stories? Just replace the word stories with recipes. Okay? That's like going to a chef and saying, oh, how do you come up with your recipes? How do you blah, 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 blah. Do you think fucking these chefs, like, this is what people think, right? These people think that a chef has no recipes at all. And then the night before he's about to open a restaurant, now he's going to create all of his recipes. Like you're going to fucking write a fucking story for a TED Talk. Like you trying to write a story for a TED Talk is like a fucking chef trying to come up with a recipe because of a restaurant. How fucking crazy is that? Right? No, that's not how it works. What a chef has done is throughout the years, throughout the last decade, 2 decades, this chef has honed their skills. They've learned how to use this ingredient, and they have a collection of ingredients that they use and they know how to use, okay? And from this collection of ingredients, throughout the last 20 years or whatever years they've been a chef, they put together this recipe. Oh, this ingredient, this recipe works really well. Oh, there's a story. Here's a recipe. And they've done that. Oh, this did. Oh, they tried it. Oh, it didn't work well. But when I just swap out this ingredient, oh, it does work well. Okay, now here's a recipe. So throughout the 20 fucking years of life, this fucking chef has spent decades perfecting his recipe and creating his recipe, and now he has a whole arsenal of recipes. Okay, he has 100 recipes, 200 recipes that he came up with over 20 years. Now, when he wants to open a restaurant, he's gonna pick the right recipes out of that 100, and then that's the menu. So, and that's exactly how storytelling goes. You're not gonna fucking come up with a story last minute. You're not gonna just force yourself to come up with your story. You've already created stories throughout your whole life, just like how a chef creates his recipes throughout his whole life. And then you serve that dish when necessary. If somebody wants, like in this occasion, you serve this dish. In this occasion, you serve this dish. Just like I've already have all these stories throughout my life. When I'm in a networking party, I'm going to tell this story. When I'm trying to get when I'm hiring and I'm trying to convince somebody to work for me, I'm recruiting, I'm going to tell this story. When I'm trying to get followers, I'm going to tell this story. When I go give a talk in TED Talk, I'm going to tell this story. When I go on this podcast, I'm going to tell this story. But when I go on this other podcast, I'm going to tell this story. Do you understand what I mean? Like, you have to have all of this story already ready. And then you use them whenever you need, just like how a chef will pull out a dish depending on the occasion. Phyllis, that's awesome. Okay, let's keep going. So that's how I find content. So how I find content for my reels and my my posts is this. I will never ever ever fucking run out of content, guys. I can talk forever and I can keep talking. I'll never run out of shit to say. Okay, that's the thing. And that's because of all the storytelling practice that I've done through the years. Because I kept practicing storytelling, connecting that blah 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 blah. When I have a conversation, I can keep going. And then I can connect the dot from here to here to here, and I can keep going. I can talk about shit, and I never run out of. I can sit here for 10 hours and not run out of shit to talk about. Okay. So what I do, this is how I come up with content. So when I go on podcasts, I'm just having a conversation like that, right? But when I do Sunday service, again, I just make point of what I want to talk about and roughly what are the stories. Oh, when I talk about this might be a good story to tell there. Oh, when I talk about this, this might be a good story. When I talk about this, that might be a good story. And you just keep telling that stories, right? And throughout. And then I just take little clips from that and I post it on Reels and things like that. But let's say I was making content, right? And I didn't have a podcast. I didn't have Sunday service, any of that. This is how I would do it. And maybe I should actually start doing it. A lot of times this is what happens to me. And maybe I'll start doing it. Sometimes, like a lot of times when I'm taking a bath or I'm taking a shit, I'm taking a shower or I'm going for a walk or something like that, like some idea pops into my head. And then I'm like, blah, blah, blah. Like I don't know exactly what the idea is, but some story or something popped into my head, right? At that moment, I will probably get out of the shower, turn on my camera, and then start talking to the camera and start telling that story. Just see what happens. Let it come out. Let it raw just come out. And then while I'm doing that, I think what's going to happen is I'm going to be rambling. But at some point, it's going to get clearer. And at some point, it's going to be like, oh, that's it. Okay. I think that's it. So that's what I would do. And I would post that. So, I would use social media and content and things like that. Less of like this perfect advertisement that I need to put up. And more, I would use social media to be more casual and much more, I would take it much more lightly. I would use social media to have a conversation with my audience where maybe I talk about a concept and then you tell me something and then I talk about it again, something like that, right? Yeah. All right, let's see if there's more questions here. Phyllis said, I get what you're saying though. Some dishes will never be repeated while others are created on autopilot, knowing when substitute an ingredient. Yeah, no, but I do that too. Sometimes I'll start talking about some nonsense shit that I don't even know if it makes sense, but I'm during a conversation. That's why I love doing podcasts, having conversation, because during a conversation, shit just comes out of me and I'm like, whoa, where'd that come from? Right? Like I think I said this before, but like I was talking to one of my old intern who has his own business now, and he kept coming to me and he kept complaining about like, oh man, all these fucking developers I have are so stupid, like they're so dumb, and like my clients are so dumb, and all these people are so dumb, and blah 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 blah. Like he kept complaining about how stupid everyone was. And I said to him, I said, hey, you should be glad they're stupid, because the only reason why you have a job is because they're stupid and they don't know how to do it. And like I don't know where shit like that comes from, right? Like that's a thought that I had in my that's been lingering in my head for a long time. It's like meaning like, oh fuck, I hate it. I hate, why are these fucking people so stupid? Why can't he just, like, because that's what I used to do, right? I would hire all these employees, and I'll be like, and then I would have to babysit them, right? I'm like, oh fuck, I always have to babysit these fucking people. Like, I can't, like, when you want to get, I'll say shit like, oh, when you want to get something done, you gotta do it yourself. I'm like, oh no, I'll just do it myself, right? Like, I kept saying that, oh, these fucking people are stupid. Oh, why can't you just figure it out? Why can't you figure it out, man? Why do I have to give you direction there? Like, why do I have to give you step by step everything? Why can't you just figure it out, right? Like, aren't you smart enough to figure it out? But then after a while, what I realize is, no, they can't figure it out. The reason why I'm the business owner and I hired them is because, no, they can't figure it out. They don't know how to fucking do it. They need the direction. That's why I have a job. Do you understand what I mean? So you know what I mean? Like a lot of us do that. Like, a lot of us give you excuses like, oh, these fucking people are so stupid, and they blame other people, not knowing that the reason why you have a job is because they don't know how to do that. That's why you have a job. So if you sit there and you're complaining like, why can't you just do that? Why do I need to tell you how to do that? Why can't you just figure it out? Well, if that person can figure it out, he would have probably fucking went out and started his own company. Why the fuck would he be sitting there fucking getting yelled at you, working for you? If you can fucking figure it out, he'll go start his own company. Are you fucking stupid? Like, so I've had that experience so many times, but I didn't know how to express it. I didn't know how to say it. I didn't know the right words to say it until one day I was having conversation with my intern, and he triggered me somehow because he said the same thing that I used to say, which is like, oh, these people are so stupid. And then I say, hey, you know what? You should be glad they're stupid because that's the reason why you have a job. But did I just make that shit up right there on the spot? Did it come out? No, it's a thought that's been lingering in my head for a long time, but it didn't get formulated and organized until I spoke it. And this is why I keep saying, you have to speak your stories. You have to let it out. If you just keep all your stories in here, nothing's happening in here. You have to let it out. Okay. I'll move on to the next question. Layla, how can I make the story interesting and engaging? Any advice? Okay. The easiest thing you can do to make story interesting and engaging is to show rather than tell, right? So when I say, when I ask people to tell me their story, a lot of people tell me a story like this. Like when I first started out, I was such an imposter. I was so not confident. I was doubting myself, and I just had no confidence. And then I met this mentor when I worked in this agency, and this mentor just taught me to be more confident, and just so I just really worked on my confidence, and I became confident. Blah blah blah. So that's the story they tell. How fucking boring is that story, right? Like, like when somebody tells me that story, I'm like, okay, like do you really honestly believe that your story is unique? Do you honestly believe that your story works, right? It's because that what that person is doing, they're using adjectives. They're just making statements. They're like, I used to have imposter syndrome. I used to have self-doubt, and now I've learned to be more confident. That's not a fucking story, okay? And the reason why is because it doesn't have a who, what, when, where, and with who. You don't have a story. You just have a bunch of statements. Okay? A story is a thing that actually happened. Okay? So the way I would tell that story is, oh, I used to have imposter syndrome. In my first internship, everybody was using Mac, and I was the only one using PC because I didn't know how to use a Mac. Everybody was using Adobe Photoshop, but I was using Microsoft Paint because I didn't know how to use Photoshop. Like, I felt like a total imposter. You know what I mean? But then one day when we went to a meeting, my art director gave me a project like all the other designers, even though I was just an intern. And when we went into the conference room and when we were pitching the design to the client, the art director actually said to the clients, "Hey, this is our designer's son." And him calling me, him saying, "Oh, that's the first time somebody's actually called me a designer." I'm like, "Holy shit! Oh, yeah, I'm a designer." And that started to break my imposter syndrome. And that's how I started to learn how to become confident. Now I have a more interesting story, right? Because what I did was I drew a picture of an exact scenario of what happened, how I got over the imposter syndrome, rather than just saying, "Oh, I used to have imposter syndrome and now," like, so the easiest way to make a story engaging is to show, don't tell. Show through action, show through, find the what, when, where, and who, right? And then now here's the second one. This one is simple, but it's not easy to do. And that is to give all of the juicy details. Because I know how you guys are. You guys tipped, like the other day we had somebody telling a story, and he was telling the story. He's like, "Oh," he was talking about how he did this, and then he got in, and then he was young, he did something bad, and got caught by the police, right? And what I noticed is that he was a little bit hesitant in talking about the part where what he did, right? Because like the whole time he was telling the story, he's like, "Oh yeah, so we did something bad, like we made some trouble, and then we got arrested, right, or something like that." And I'm saying, like, I'm sitting there, the only thing in my head is going like, "What? What did you guys do? What did you do? What did you do to get arrested? I want to know. What is it? What is it? What is it?" But like he skipped over that part, right? Or some people, I was in this fucking seminar, this yoga boot camp, and somebody was telling the story of like how she said, I feel guilty for not being a great mother, and I feel guilty because I feel like I can never be the perfect wife and the perfect mom, and I feel like it's never enough. Like I feel like I'm never gonna be able to be the. Like, she kept going on, like, "Oh, okay, whatever." I was kind of getting bored until like the facilitator came and said, "Hey, truth is simple. Like, lies are complicated, but truth is simple. You can say it in very few words, right?" So, remember, this is a woman for 10 minutes. She's been going around and around talking about how, how like bad she is a mom and blah, blah, blah. But eventually she just paused for a second and she says, "I've been having an affair." Or she said something like, "I've been having an affair for the last year," or something like that. So you see what I mean? The hard truth, the juicy details, the thing that you wanna tiptoe around, you wanna beat around the bush. A lot of people tell stories like that. A lot of people's stories like, "Oh yeah, but that's not important. Oh, it's not really important what I did." It's like, "Oh yeah, like this is what happened." But the point is, I feel guilty. The point is that, like, they keep trying to fucking push this part away, and they kept trying to focus on this part of the story, and they keep trying to stay away from this part. That means that part right here, that's where the real story is. That's where the juicy shit is. That's where the vulnerable shit. That's the shit that you don't want to talk about because you're embarrassed. But that's where the real story is. So, yeah, that's the second way you can make a story interesting. Don't skip the juicy details. The juicy details that make you cringe and they make it like that's so excruciating because I don't want to say it. Like I'm so afraid that they're gonna judge me. That thing, that's what makes the story good. Okay. I'm using 3-act model to write my stories. Are there any recommendation books or methods that help storytelling for marketing? I guess if you want to do storytelling, this is okay. check out the book Story, right, from Robert McKee. So if you read the book Story from Robert McKee, that book is the book that is the original book that talks about that whole setup, conflict resolution, the 3X structure, right? But all it is this. The 3X structure, all it is this. Before the incident, the actual event, and after, right? I used to be like this until this happened. And then now I changed like this. And it's the transformation, right? And that's what marketing is. Marketing is a transformation. Oh, I'm lazy and I'm out of shape right now. Before, until I buy this product or I go through this program, and then the result is going to be like this, right? So before the solution, and then the after, right? And that's what the 3X structure is: the before, the setup, the thing that happened, the conflict, and the resolution, right? But I fucking hated how fucking marketers keep trying to fucking tie the shit and force it to fit to fucking story, like StoryBrand, right? Like StoryBrand is a great structure for sales message. So if what you want to do is have a great sales message, not necessarily tell stories, but have a great sales message, I would say follow the StoryBrand framework, right? That's a great framework to follow for writing sales script, sales message, sales copy. Okay? I wouldn't call that storytelling though. Because I feel like what storytelling is me telling you this is how I used to be, this is what happened, and then this is how I changed. Me telling you that story, and there could be multiple reasons why I tell you that story. Maybe because I want to show you, hey, where you are right now. Hey, are you not able to grow Instagram? You want to learn how to grow Instagram? Are you posting every day and nothing is moving? And are you getting tired of it? Well, I was there too. Here's my story, right? So I'm telling you a story, but I'm basically telling you that I was there too, and this is how I fixed it. That's the story, right? And then now because I was at where you were, I fixed it. So now I'm going to teach you how to fix it. And here's my story. That's a simple one. Another one might be what I call the hero's journey, like what people call the hero's journey story, which is like, oh, I used to be like this, but now I'm like this. I thought this was my weakness, but it actually turned out to be my strength, or something like that, right? So I'm going to say this. This is what I hate about fucking marketing. What I hate about marketing is how the manipulation that happens at the language level, that like, and it's kind of the fucking same shit that's happening out in the world right now with all this fucking misinformation, disinformation, or whatever the fuck they want to call it. Like, it's the same thing that's happening, which is people fucking come up with they come up with their own fucking theories, their own science, their own fucking word meaning for words and shit like that, and they fucking put it as a marketing message, and they're like, here you go, it's science, and they're like, okay, it's proven science, and they try to sell it like that. It's fucking bullshit. For example, like, that's what StoryBrand did, right? StoryBrand is like, oh, 7-part framework, bum 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 bum. It's like, this is the story, blah blah blah. Like, when you actually break apart that, like, one has nothing to do with the other. Or when somebody's trying to be like, oh, here's the framework for telling a story, and then like, this is how it, like, no, that all of that is fucking bullshit. Like, whenever somebody is like, oh, this is your brand story, and this is how you structure, and this is the formula. Whenever somebody says, okay, here's the thing. Whenever somebody uses the word, here's the formula, here's the fucking blueprint, here's the secret whatever map or whatever, every time somebody uses that shit, get the fuck out of my face. Okay? Because that's bullshit, manipulated marketing language that you just fucking made up to fucking manipulate me. That's all. So here's the thing. This is what people do. They know that quantum physics is popular in mainstream whatever. They know that AI is popular. They know that they heard these fucking words, decentralized blockchains. They heard all of these popular words, which is scientific and shit like that. So when they come up with something that they're fucking trying to sell, now they fucking force, like, this is why I fucking hate Deepak Chopra. Like, this is why I hate Deepak Chopra, because I hate fucking how he fucking uses science. Like, oh, that's it's quantum theory. Like, I hate anybody in the fucking spiritual space that use the word quantum. Stop fucking using the word quantum. You don't know what the fucking means, okay? Like every fucking quantum physicist out there is fucking laughing at you because you don't know what the fucking means. But what people do is they take words like these fucking trendy words like quantum, like AI, like blockchain, or storytelling, or 3x structure, or 3-part framework, or fucking they take these fucking words and they fucking present it as if it was fucking science, and then say, hey, here's why it works, and here's the 7-part story framework, and this is why this is story brand, and this is why it works, like as if it was fucking like. No, it's not. Fuck, what you just fucking put out there has nothing to do with story. Where's the fucking story? Where's the fucking story? The whole fucking point of the story is for me to look at the fucking character, the protagonist, and see what they're going through, and see what lesson, what internal struggles, and what lesson they learn. That's what a fucking story is. If you look at any stories in the Bible, that's fundamentally what a story is. How is that happening in story brand 7-part structure? It's not happening at all. But if I take that 7-part structure and I fucking compare it to a sales script that salespeople use, sales script, right, for sales pages and shit like that, it maps out perfectly. Because that's what salespeople do. Oh, state the pain, the problem, the solution to the problem, and how does that problem make you feel? How much is it hurting you? All of those things that the 7-part story brand framework is doing, it's not fucking story. It's a sales script. So what's going on is people are using, now the word story is really popular and branding is really popular. Okay, so let's take the word story and let's take the word brand, let's combine it and let's call it story brand and let's call it 7-part frame structure as if this was fucking scientifically fucking studied or some shit like that, and let's show it out to the world and let's fucking manipulate and trick everybody to think that this fucking bullshit 7-step sales framework, sales copy framework, which I just fucking repurposed and called it story brand framework, and now I'm gonna market it like that, and this is now I'm teaching storytelling. And what manipulative tactics like that does, it just confuses the shit out of everybody in the market, because everybody in the market is thinking like, oh, story brand, that's storytelling, oh, that's storytelling, thinking they're fucking good storytellers, thinking like, oh, I learned story brand, so I'm a good storyteller. No, you're not. No, you're not. You're not a fucking storyteller. You just know how to fucking copy story brand framework. And this is exactly why every fucking website I go to, every time I go to a website where I know that they use the story brand framework, I can tell right away. I'm like, oh, you use a story brand framework, didn't you? Because that shit is so fucking cookie cutter. Every fucking website, every fucking sales message sounds exactly the same. Every fucking personal brand website I go to, every one of those, like, think about it, right? Every one of those websites you go to, you're gonna have some fucking fake ass photo shoot on the hero where the person is standing like this, or like, like they're trying to like act like they're fucking like they're laughing or something like that, and then like some candid shit when you know that shit was shot in the studio. So some fancy photo of you and some fucking cliche hero message that that says like become the happiest person you know, or like like some fucking cliche fucking poetry sounding, fucking clever sounding some hero right there, and then underneath that, same shit. Oh, are you struggling with the Are you struggling to find the, struggling to, do you feel like you're stuck? Are you struggling to find this? Blah, 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 blah. And that's why every fucking infomercial sounds exactly the same, right? Oh, are you going to, blah, 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 like, oh, are you struggling? Are you dealing with this? Well, no more, right? Like, introducing this, like, it's the fucking story. That's what a story brand framework is. If you go through the 7 parts story brand 7 work, right? Step 1, 2, 3, blah blah blah. There's a hero there's a victim who meets a guide and blah blah blah, all of that shit. Take that 7-part framework, and next time you watch it, next time at 2 a.m., go turn on the infomercial. Go watch an infomercial on TV, right? Where somebody goes, hey, do you ever feel like, when you're cleaning, blah blah blah? Well, worry no more. Introducing the ShamWow or whatever that is, right? Just map it through how they do the infomercial. I guarantee you, they probably follow that 7-part step perfectly. That's what an infomercial is. So I'll say it right now. You know what story brand is? The story brand 7-part framework is basically a framework for infomercials. That's what that is. If you want to you want to create an infomercial, use the story brand 7-part framework, because that's what it is. Like, go fucking watch the ShamWow video. Yeah, exactly. It's using the 7-part framework. But anyway, sorry for ranting like that, but I guess my point is this, right? I try not to put too much focus on those fucking meaningless words like frameworks or like storytelling or energy, right? I don't want to use these words, because those words doesn't mean anything. The reason why those words doesn't mean anything is because we all have a different definition. Energy to you doesn't mean the same thing to me. Same word as me. When you say quantum, it doesn't mean the same thing to me. When you say this, it doesn't mean that. So when we believe the definition of a word is different things, we can't possibly have a communication. The only way we can have a communication, the only way you can tell a story and I actually understand your story, is if you and I define the words the same. So we can't. If you keep using the words like energy, if you keep using the words like these like vague words, you're not going to be able to get any message across. Okay, Marcella, if I want to tell stories to build my brand, where should I share them? I think the best thing to do is just every day on Instagram stories or on Instagram reels, just every day, and show up and just tell stories. I mean, like, you know what? Maybe somebody could do this. I think if I was busy and I was like, I had a 9-to-5 job and I didn't have time and I need to make reels, this is exactly what I would do. Like, so many fucking people already do this in real life, but they don't want to do it. So many people already do this, right? You go to work, you have a fucking great day or you have a bad day or whatever it is, and you come home, and let's say at home, you have a boyfriend or girlfriend or whatever. What's the first thing you do, right? You come home and like, oh, you know what happened today? Oh, this person did blah, 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 blah. Oh, you know what happened today? Like, oh, I went to the store today and blah, blah, blah. Oh, you know what? Oh, you know what just happened? Like naturally, you're already doing it. You're already you come home, you go to dinner with your fucking friends, you come home to your spouse or whatever. You're already fucking telling stories of what happened to you that day. You're already doing it. You're just doing it not in front of a camera. So what I would do is every day when I get out of work, I would go to my car. I would just fucking in my car have the camera on and just start recording and just say, oh, fuck, today, like, oh, this is what just happened. Like, my boss fucking said this, and then I did this, and then I go, oh, and then today I went to lunch. But I would just, as if I'm like writing a diary, for 5 minutes, I'll just speak into the camera. That's it. And I'll post it. And then tomorrow I'll do it again. I do it again. I'll do it again. I'll do it again. And I'll just do this as an exercise to practice my storytelling, not to get Instagram followers, blah, blah, blah. But I guarantee you, when you do this, the followers will come. A lot of times, like, It's never gonna whenever you put all your focus on the result, the outcome, the goal, I guarantee it, like it's gonna be impossible for you to reach that. You have to focus on the process. You have to focus on the day-to-day task, not the goal. So if you keep thinking, how do I build my brand? How do I tell story to build my brand? How do I tell my story to build my brand? How do I tell my story to build my brand? That's like going to the eating healthy to get a six pack, eating healthy to get a six pack. If your mind keeps going on the six pack, this is going to be impossible to do because you're eating healthy, but you're not getting a six pack. You're eating healthy, you're not getting a six pack. You're eating healthy, getting that. You're eating healthy, not getting it, and this keeps happening for months. And at some point, you're like, oh, fuck it, I fucking sick of this food. I'm gonna fucking eat it. This is what happens when you focus. But when you actually focus on eating healthy is the goal, then this will automatically happen. If storytelling is the goal, making sure you show up and you can practice storytelling is the goal, the followers will automatically come. But if you keep focusing on the followers, every day you're telling stories and you're like, I didn't get any followers today. I didn't get any followers today. And you get 10 days later, you're going to give up. So whatever goal you want to achieve, don't put your focus here. Put your focus here on the day-to-day activity. Because otherwise, you're going to give up. I think I got to go, guys. I'm going to do one last question. Okay. Anna Ziliotto copy. Do you use any storytelling structure to make your stories more interesting? If you guys really want to know how to like structure and polish your story for business, if you haven't taken my Domestica Art of Storytelling course, I highly recommend you to take that, because in that course I go over how you should structure your story, and I also go over certain techniques, like certain writing techniques that you can use to make sure you can grab attention and stuff like that. So I will highly recommend you to do that. Okay, I'm gonna run. Thank you, everyone. Thank you for coming and thank you for staying. This Sunday, on Sunday service, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna, last week we just kind of came out and we just found our stories and we just came up with all these memories. What I'm gonna teach you guys this weekend is how do you take any story that happened to you, right? It doesn't matter what story, and tie it to your business. Like, what's the significance of this story in your business today? That's what and the reason why is because, trust me, everything that's happened in your life, that's ever happened in your life that's affected you, is also affecting your business today, because it's affecting who you are. All right, everyone. Thank you. Thank you, Instagram. Thank you, YouTube. Thank you, Comedreo. Hey, Reggie. Hey, Phyllis. Thank you, everyone here. And I'll see you guys next week. Cheers. Bye.